Cheers and welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Yes, this video has almost nothing to do with home brewing. Yes, nothing. A tiny bit, very tiny, very, very tiny, but almost nothing. Yes, and I know what you're thinking. Nope. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and any other holidays you may celebrate during this time of the year. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you're enjoying family, or at least enjoying what you like to do. And keep that in mind, because during the holidays, sometimes we take a lot for granted. And this video is focused on two things, and two things that I know a lot of people are like, why are you doing this? This is completely out of your home brewing channel. Well, the people who watch this channel are people just like me. And that's why I'm sharing this. And yeah, we've got young and old in this group. So, and I'm getting older by the day. So, one thing is being kind. That's right, just being nice to people. The other one is appreciating life. That's one I had to work at. I had to work at that for a very long time. Now, the being kind, that kind of comes natural. I've always been very nice to people. I have no reason not to be. Sometimes I do, but usually I'm still nice. I have been told regularly, and I still hear about it probably weekly in my life now, both at work and personal, why are you so nice? Why do you care? Why are you being kind to them? They're mean, they're taking advantage, they're whatever. Two reasons. One, and these being kind and appreciating life are very, very dear to my heart, but being kind costs me, nothing. Maybe a moment of my time, but it doesn't cost me a dime. And I don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes. I don't know what they go through on a daily, weekly, or whatever throughout their whole life. I don't know what they've gone through, what they are going through. And it may not be any of my business, so why not be kind? Why not be nice to people? You know, give someone a second chance, or as I've been told, sometimes too many chances, but it costs me nothing, okay? And if it makes their day, then even better. If I can make someone smile, that makes my day. That's just one of the things I love to see is people smile, especially friends. If I can get a friend to smile, that's like kudos. Now, appreciating life. That's one I had to work at, and that's one that I feel that if you're an older viewer, you've probably had some tragedy in your life, and that tragedy kind of helps you appreciate life. If you're younger or you've never gone through anything really bad or rough, then it's a little harder to grasp the concept. Even if you feel like you do, I promise you, it's not as close to your heart as it should be. And tomorrow is no guarantee. I know I sound very dark, and I do like dark humor, but it's the fact of life. Tomorrow doesn't exist yet. And you know, tomorrow might be amazing. It may never come. And that's something to always kind of keep in the back of your head. I'm not asking you to think down and dark. I'm a little bit like that, but yeah, I go to Mayo Clinic every 4 months for the rest of my life. And they're always like, you're always so happy. You're always so happy. I'm like, it can always be worse. And they're like, that's not always the best way to look at it. I'm like, it works for me. But yeah, so I'm going to share a few things, very personal. And I'm hoping that you will take that bit of information. Do not be empathetic. I don't like that. Understand, I have a great wife, 2 great kids. I have a great life. I'm just saying that if you can take some of the bad things that have happened in my life and understand that these are things that could have happened to you, or maybe it was much worse, or maybe you've been lucky and haven't had anything major or bad, in your life. That's awesome. I think most people wish. So I'm going to share that with you, and it is very personal, but like I said, if it helps a few people to just give someone a hug, give them a second chance, be kind to somebody, it costs them nothing, appreciate life a little bit more, then this video is worth it. So, jumping into appreciating life. First of all, me and my wife got married 33 years ago. We got married a year early because somebody was suffering and we thought they were going to pass away early. And within months, we lost 5 people. Weeks apart. Yes, 5. One of them from age, one from stroke, one from cancer that we were told was in remission, and then literally weeks later, and 2 in a car accident. My wife lost her birth mother, I lost my mother. All of it happened very suddenly. And we didn't deal with it very well. We were very young, and it was very traumatic and very depressing and very upsetting. And I mean, what are you going to do when you're in your early 20s? It's very hard to deal with things like that, and you don't expect it to just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. You figure one time's bad enough, and it just doesn't stop. So yeah, many years ago. Now we're jumping forward. Okay. I've had electrical problems with my heart, which I may have alluded to in a few videos. There's one video where I was in a lot of pain and extremely grumpy in that video, and someone called me out on it. Sorry. But I never knew I had electrical problems with my heart until I was 27 and ended up in an emergency room, and they lit up the paddles, and yeah, they light up the paddles. You're like, hey, I think this might be serious. Yeah, so had that really bad for about 4 years, and I have a high tolerance for medication, so it didn't work very well. And it was like taking sugar pills towards the end, and I had a doctor kind of tell me that my days were numbered, should we say. So I go in, I lay on a metal table, pretty much naked, yeah, they put a little sheet, and they put this silver thing on your chest and your back, and you're like, what's that for? And they're like, oh, that's so we can restart your heart if it stops. Excuse me? And then the doctor comes in and I go, you're gonna knock me out, right? And he's like, oh no, we need you awake for the surgery. Excuse me? Yes, it was an ablation, so they didn't rip my chest open, but I had gills in both legs, and I felt like someone was starting a fire inside of my chest. Extremely excruciating, extremely painful, and definitely a little traumatic. So, jumping forward in life. Yeah, 31, surgery. I go all the way to 48, and things are doing great. No more major issues with SVT. And boom, hey, here's AFib, A-flutter. Welcome to the house. Yeah, or welcome to the party, should they say. And everything went to hell in a handbasket. I go and I see a doctor, and they put me on medication, and within months, it's like taking sugar pills. So they're like, you know what? We're gonna do surgery. They go in, they do surgery, they tear the inside of my heart. Did I mention we had a hurricane coming, and I go home and we lose power for 2 weeks, and it's 85 degrees, and every time I move, it feels like someone's ripping my heart out of my chest. And the thing that drove me nuts the most was my wife complaining about the temperature. It's so hot. I'm like, I don't want to hear it anymore. And the following year, they put me on a special medication, a very dangerous medication. It takes about a week in the hospital to get put on it because it has one side effect, heart attack, yeah. But it helps to regulate electrical problems in your heart, and it did a decent job, but because of the tear in my heart, it didn't do very well. And moving forward, at the age of 50, I go to Mayo Clinic. I should have gone there in the beginning. But I went to Mayo Clinic, and they go, you have the plumbing of a 37-year-old, even being overweight. Plumbing's amazing. But the wiring was done by a blind man. Yeah, they did another ablation, and by the way, I was on a medication for a year before that caused massive arthritis. I don't even know how I got through that year. I was living in a massage chair 2 to 3 times a day that my wife purchased for me. It hurt. I had 90-year-old ladies at a grocery store that could outrun me. I couldn't keep up with anybody. I sat down constantly trying to just breathe and catch my breath. Incredibly painful, incredibly bad year. Moving forward, it's been 6 years since all hell broke loose with the heart again. And this year's been amazing. And I only had 3 incidents this year. And I know you're thinking, 3 incidents? 3 incidents is awesome for me. I mean, it used to be weekly, if not almost daily. So yeah, and on a daily basis, it used to feel like someone was squeezing my heart or stabbing it or something sharp. Daily, yeah. For the majority of the last 5 out of 6 years. But this year, amazing. And I will tell you, when they nail you, it does leave burn marks. Yeah, you see that the next day when you wake up in your own house. You go home and yeah, not good. Okay, so I'm doing great. This has been an amazing year for me. I'm set. So instead, my wife and my youngest decide to fall apart. And yes, I got permission to share. Okay, so jumping back to December of last year, my youngest ends up in a car accident. Not his fault. Doesn't matter. The person's uninsured. The person actually went to jail. It was pretty bad. And my son, we thought was fine, minus some pain in his lower back area. A few months later, he's got to go to a doctor, and he's got an infection just below his spine, thank God. Not on his spine. Yeah, I find the good in everything. But they take care of it, and then his incision keeps ripping open. So they sew it back up, then they start cauterizing it. We've been going to wound care all year long, taking care of him, and it's just not healing. It's just not getting much better. So a few weeks back, I took him to Tallahassee, and they had to go in, and this is a surgeon. There's like 2 in the country that are supposed to be like experts at this. And he's got very tiny fingers. I think that probably helps. But he comes out, and I'm in the waiting room. My son's, in recovery, and he goes, surgery went really well. He's in recovery. He's doing fine. But 2 to 4 inch max that we were gonna do, yeah, we had some complications. His skin was so thin in one area, we had to go, literally, it's like a foot long, double folded skin, double stitched, drainage system. It was pretty significant. He's 21. This happened when he was 20. He's getting ready to turn 22 here soon. But all because some idiot wasn't paying attention on the road. And on top of that, ended up going to jail for putting other people in harm's way. So yeah, now during this whole year, I'm having a great year. My wife and my youngest are not. My wife has something done in December on a thyroid that she's had 3 surgeons that she's asked to remove it because it's growing out of control. And she's pretty sure she has cancer because it runs through her family. Well, 2 surgeons refused. The third one finally gives in and says, you know what? Fine, we'll remove it. There's a problem, but it's not cancer. As she goes to wheel her off the surgery, she looks at me and says, I promise you it's not cancer. So my wife's home, New Year's Day, sleeping and recovering. And 2 weeks later, we get a phone call. Hey, you have cancer. What? Yeah, they found cancer. And what all these other people said, there's no way there's cancer in there. And as they're checking and trying to verify it's not spread and everything's good and they got it under control because this thyroid's fine, is this one that went out of control, doubled its size in a year. They found skin cancer. They take care of that. They go in, they take more. So she is cancer free. Just not the best way to start your year. Not only get cancer diagnosis, but get it twice for 2 different types of cancer. But luckily they weren't aggressive and they were contained and everything's great. Move forward a few more months and she had been in a car accident over 20 years ago with a gentleman who left his work knowing his brakes weren't working properly, carrying explosive and flammable material to deliver throughout Jacksonville. Yeah, I think somebody should have taken a second thought on that one. Well, towards the end of the day, he's coming off the highway and his brakes completely give out. He sees my wife's car and goes, hey, instead of going through the intersection, I'll use that car to brake my tractor trailer. Yeah. So destroys the side of her car. Luckily, it was a good car and it, kept her from being killed. And she even told me, hey, I'm fine. I'm like, don't say that. Next morning, she's crying, can't move. And I'm like, she's like, how did you know? I'm like, you had some adrenaline going. Needless to say, 20 years later, she starts losing the feeling in her right arm and right leg, which had been going off and on a little, but it finally got really bad. So she gets it scheduled, and I think it was June it started happening, July it got scheduled, and they went in and they took care of 3 out of 4. They thought one they'd have to replace a complete vertebrae, but they go in there, put some more cushion in. She's got some titanium things and a bunch of bolts. And I forgot to mention she lost her grandmother shortly before that, so a little bit more trauma. Then we move a little bit more forward. I have an uncle who's put in the hospital from a stroke, the last remaining sibling of my dad, who is still alive. And they tell him he's got days and tell everybody to say goodbye. Yeah, we had him transferred to another hospital. A few days later, he walked out, he's home, he's fine. Yeah, I don't trust a lot of medical professionals. Some are awesome, but there's a lot of really questionables. Then my wife decides to be a tree and falls like a tree in the forest. I did laugh at her because I was like, how did that happen? Needless to say, broke her elbow, fractured her wrist. I'm like, seriously? Then we move forward a little bit more and we're eating, and this is just like not even a month ago, and she breaks her molar. Well, she has some big molars, and they had to put a metal rod in there, and it's still hardening, I guess, with the bone, and eventually they'll put a fake tooth in, but she's on painkillers for that right now. Yeah, so I would keep telling my wife and my kid, you can't fall apart next year. I've got some minor things to get taken care of, but you all need to stop falling apart. So that's my point is, yeah, first when we got married, that was really bad. I mean, downright awful. I've had some things where I'm impressed I survived because, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then watching this happen to my wife, it was pretty traumatic. And my youngest is extremely traumatic to see someone so young having to go through so many things. And luckily he's doing much better. He's starting to move around a little bit more, still kind of stiff, but someone putting a giant slice and moving your skin around and that might do that to you. But yeah, so turn to that person that you care about the most, give them a big hug. Remember that this is the holidays, and what's really the holidays are all about is caring for those around you, appreciating whether it's somebody or something, I don't care. There's nothing wrong with appreciating something you might have because you enjoy it and you do it. And I know some people right now are going, you said there was a little bit of home brewing in this. I did forget, I'm sorry. But before I started YouTube, I had started learning about home brewing, and I didn't realize that stress was having such a big impact on my heart, and from work and other things, not home brewing. And my wife one day, who can't stand the smell of beer, yeah, she can't stand it. She can't stand the smell of hops. She can smell that stuff like one frickin' rabbit pellet like a mile away. Says, you know what? I'm watching you when you're brewing, and you kind of seem like you're in your zone, and you just don't look as stressed out. You're very focused. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I am. And we talked about it, and she's like, I think you really just need to just, if you enjoy the hobby, keep doing it and just deep dive. Welcome to today. Yeah, you can say I took a deep dive into the deep end on brewing. But yeah, I do. I enjoy it. It helps me relax. And, what's life without finding things to enjoy in life and really enjoying life to its fullest? So, like I said, be nice. Doesn't cost you anything. I know there's some mean people out there that don't deserve your kindness. And on top of that, appreciate the moments you have. Try to find ways to enjoy life. And no, I'm not jumping out of airplanes. That's not my style. I don't do roller coasters for both medical and personal reasons. But I brew beer. I enjoy it. It's something I like doing. I have fun. And yeah, this is what I do. Everybody has their thing they do. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays, and anything else you may celebrate. I don't want to miss out on anyone there. And thank you again, as every viewer out there is greatly appreciated. Cheers.